Today is day 21, which puts us into phase 4. This is the mid to late luteal phase, which includes PMS. And this phase is mostly dominated by this big flux in progesterone that we get mid luteal phase. And so that'll go up and then go back down again before our period. It is accompanied by a second increase in estrogen, although that increase is not as high as the ovulation surge in estrogen was. So a lot of the symptoms around PMS really have to do with this progesterone-estrogen balance. For example, some people notice a change in their appetite. Estrogen was a little bit of an inhibitor of appetite, whereas progesterone increases our basal body temperature, it increases our metabolism, and sometimes hunger does kick in more in this last phase of the cycle. Also, progesterone can like hamper that increase in libido that we had with the estrogen only. So some people do have less libido during this phase. It can also affect our skin, the sebaceous glands in the skin, and some people do experience hormonal acne. Some people get headaches. There's a lot of PMS symptoms that this progesterone estrogen balance is behind, and our goal in Lunar Sync is to continue to support the body through that roller coaster. We'll learn more about that in the days to come. So it is day 22 for me. So we're in phase 4, and one ingredient I wanted to highlight is this ginkgo biloba. It's this fan-shaped leafy herb, and it's been shown in randomized control trials to benefit PMS from both a physical and emotional point of view. So the depression that can happen or worsen before the period, and also specifically physical symptoms around bloating, fluid retention, and breast tenderness have been shown unequivocally to be helped by ginkgo. I'm going to be taking my day 22 today. According to the US Department of Health, 90% of people with periods experience some menstrual related symptoms. A lot of these symptoms could be physical, but some of them are mental as well. Specifically, a lot of people can experience a lower mood, and that would be most common in the week before you expect your period. Today is day 23 for me, so I'm definitely in it with that hormonal fluctuation really going up and down. Again, the estrogen was highest mid-cycle, it went back down, and then about a week before the period, progesterone increases and estrogen comes back up a little bit with that, and then it goes down again. So that can be a roller coaster for some people. There was also a study that measured people's serotonin levels throughout their menstrual cycle, and it consistently found that our serotonin levels are lowest in the last 10 days of our menstrual cycle. All of these things are pretty validating for what the lived experience is of having a period. With that, I'm going to take my day 23. One of the ingredients in this is vitamin B6, which has been shown to be really helpful in a double-blind placebo-controlled trial for specifically premenstrual associated depressive symptoms. That is exactly why I included it in this phase 4. And I also really love that we're taking this 10 days a month instead of every day, because it is possible for vitamin B6 to accumulate in the body and cause toxicity. But at this dose, for this duration, it's perfectly safe. So today is day 24, which is for those with a 30-day menstrual cycle. This is 1 week before we expect our period. And that is peak luteal, peak progesterone, peak PMS symptoms for a lot of people. What I wanted to talk about today is how these hormonal fluctuations can actually affect our gut function. So we have receptors for estrogen and progesterone all along the GI tract. And so it might, if you're someone who has IBS type symptoms, it might be interesting to monitor whether you notice a fluctuation that syncs up with where you are in your menstrual cycle. Some specific common patterns you might find: progesterone, which is peak now about a week before your period, it actually slows down gastric motility. And so the smooth muscle cells in the colon have receptors for progesterone and can be slowed down. Some people do experience worse constipation. That can also cause bloating and more upper GI symptoms as well. A lot of people do also experience the opposite. We'll find when we get back to the menstrual cycle, back to day 1 of your period at the end of this pack, people can experience what's called menstrual diarrhea. That is just the letdown from all of this progesterone slowing gastric motility, and then all of a sudden the gut isn't slowed down anymore and people can experience almost a rebound of diarrhea during their period. Less common now during the luteal phase, but here's to flowing with it. Hi, so it is day 25 for me, and toward the end of the luteal phase, as the body's getting ready for the next cycle, the next period, the endometrial cells lining the uterus actually start to break down and they release prostaglandins. Prostaglandins cause inflammation, blood constriction, uterine cramps, and they're just these inflammatory cells. And so they can be part of the mechanism of the pain and cramping that can happen toward the end of the luteal phase and throughout the period. So because of that, I included in phase 4 this really powerful herb called white willow bark. You might know it as aspirin. It's actually the herb that salicylic acid or aspirin is from, and it comes from the white willow tree, which is represented by these beautiful willow leaves that our phase 4 character has. She's got the ginkgo leaves and the willow leaves. And though I included 81 milligrams of this white willow bark extract, as that is a very common dose for aspirin as well. Hi, so it is day 26, getting to the last row of our journey, of our lunar journey this month. And this is the end, the late luteal phase. And at this point, for most people, we're experiencing a decrease, a kind of letdown from the hormonal highs that happened more toward early and mid luteal phase. And sometimes that carries with it its own kind of set of symptoms. There are increased prostaglandins, which can contribute to joint pain, headache, and fatigue. Vitamin E is an ingredient I wanted to highlight today, which is part of phase 4. Studies have shown that taking vitamin E in the week before your period can help reduce symptoms of PMS, including anxiety, breast pain, cramping, and cravings. So that is why I included it for us. Hello, so this is day 26, so getting really toward the end of this dose pack. And a common question we get is, what if my cycle isn't exactly 30 days? Most cycles are actually between around 26 and 30. So some of you might get your period around day 26, in which case you have a couple of options. One is the formulations for phase 4, and then when you start the new pack, phase 1, are actually complementary. So you can take both at the same time if you're still feeling some of that PMS hormonal letdown happening. Then phase 4 will support you there, whereas phase 1 really focuses on the cramps and the blood loss and the fatigue. And so it is totally cool, safe, and helpful to take both at the same time if you're someone who has a shorter cycle and you don't want to waste those extra capsules. And a different option is to double up, take 2 a day. You might be someone who has more of like an in-between stutter start to their next period, where you might be spotting for a day before your period fully starts, in which case you can just continue on or double up and start a new pack on the first day of your full flow of your period. But lastly, of course, an option is just to stop the dose pack if you get your period early and waste or give away the extra capsules. If, on the other hand, you're someone who has a longer cycle, longer than 30 days, you can just continue these through until you run out and then wait for your next period to take your next phase 1 capsule. So with that, I'm taking day 27. Day 28, we're getting toward the end of this pack. And one of the things I love about our packaging is that it kind of serves as like a visual cycle tracker. And when we're getting down here, it's a good time to think, are we ready for our period? Do we need any products or anything? Because winter is coming. Hi, so today is day 29 of this pack. I'm actually a 28-day cycler, so I started day 1 of my next pack as well, but I'm going to continue these last 2 and just take them concurrently with my next pack. And that works if your cycle is less than 30 days or if you're someone on oral contraceptive pills. Those are usually given in 28-day packs anyway. So you're gonna be more on a 28-day cycle. And it works too because there's really a little bit, just like the seasons, there's a little bit of overlap in the symptoms that are happening at the end of phase 4 and at the beginning of phase 1. For example, headaches are most common now in the last 2 days of your luteal premenstrual phase and in the first 2 to 3 days of your period. There's physiologically a trifecta of things that make headaches more common during this time. One is that prostaglandins, those inflammatory markers, are a little bit elevated. The other is that the estrogen levels decrease, and with that we have a lower pain threshold because our endorphins are lower. And third, the decrease in estrogen also affects the CGRP, which is a protein in the meninges in the brain that modulates pain and inflammation in the brain. So these 3 things together are like a perfect storm for headaches to be more common now during this flux between the end of your inner autumn, getting into hibernation of your inner winter. So phase 4 back to phase 1 is unfortunately a common time for headaches, but we've got you covered with Lunar Sync. We've got the anti-inflammatory white willow bark for you. We've got some ferritin, some iron support coming up in phase 1 to help the blood flow to the brain. And that's how I take mine. Day 30, the last day of this pack. So I hope you guys who are taking this along with me have enjoyed and noticed some benefit. But I will say what we've noticed in our beta trials and our customers so far, and what's pretty typical of really any kind of hormonal supplement intervention medication, is that you find peak effects after 3 months. There will be some benefits that hopefully you've found during the first month. That's usually the botanicals that are helpful right away, like the cramp bark for the cramps, the Vitex for the big estrogen symptoms mid-cycle. But the other vitamins like B6 and iron and the minerals, like the iodine and the selenium, those can take 3 months to really accumulate and get full effect from. So I hope you've enjoyed and continue to give us a try for at least 3 months. Let me know what you think.